Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to share a layout that I created with you. Okay, so I used the Scraptastic March kit, the Drops of Jupiter, and pretty much everything comes out of my kit except for a few things, and I'll explain those when I get to them. So I wanted to use this teal graph paper as my background, but I wanted a little section of it just so that I could back my title. And my title is going to be Celebrate One, and the word one, I cut out by hand, and I cut a piece of paper big enough to where I wanted it to fit. And then I cut them into 3 sections for each letter, and then I just cut the letters out. And I did that because I wanted my letters to be a specific size. And so it was just really, really easy to do. So I'm going to go ahead and back it with the paper that I'm going to use for the background. It looked a little plain if I just left it white, and so I liked the way that it looked when I added that paper in the background. So the background paper is a Scraptastic exclusive, and it's called In Orbit. And then the hand-cut title is from Chamel paper, and that's from the Starshine collection, and it's called Rosetta. And so here I am struggling to get that glue open, and I just couldn't. So I'm going to have to get my smaller gauged needle, and it's just so hard to squeeze that bottle. I like the yellow capped ones better than I like the blue capped. Just my hand's still really weak after breaking it, and it was broken a long time ago. But healing has been a long process. So anyways, I end up getting the letters glued down, as much struggle as I had with it. And I know it doesn't look like I'm struggling, but this is put at 2 times speed, so it was a little bit slower than normal. So I don't know what papers I want to use in my layering, and so I'm just really kind of looking through all of them and seeing which ones look best. And I'm noticing that just the way that the layers are right now, or the photos are right now, it just kind of gets lost in that background paper. So I'm going to back it with some of the navy paper, regular plain cardstock that came in the kit, and that makes it pop just a little bit more. And just because the patterns on this are pretty busy. And so I'm going to use that star paper and the polka dot paper in my layers. I'm going to go ahead and cut the center out of this navy paper because I know that I want to use it as to back my entire layout so that I have a nice little border around it. And I really like this color, so I wanted to make sure and conserve as much as I could out of it. And I end up using just about all of that paper for this layout. There's just a little bit left. I'm going to go ahead and put my paper that for my background, I cut that down to 11 3/4 by 11 3/4, so I have a very small border around it, and I really like the way that that looks. And I backed where I had cut out of my background paper. I backed it with just some cheap white paper that I had, just to kind of give it a little bit more stability so I wouldn't have just kind of a floppy open section. Because I do this quite often, and it seems like sometimes it gets kind of weak. So I just wanted to back it just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take the leftover blue paper, and I'm going to mat my photo. And I don't leave a large border, but I'm going to leave some space on the top, and that is where I'm going to put the part of my title that has the Celebrate on it. And I wanted something that was semi-plain and dark because I'm using some white thickers for that, and so I wanted them to be able to pop. Okay, so I'm going to keep the top of my navy paper just big enough to cover the thickers. And these thickers are called Thick and Thin in white. Okay, so I'm going to put the B right in the middle for Celebrate. And I was taking the middle letter and I was going to put the other letters like kind of going outward so that I could center my title, but then I decided to go ahead and move it all over to the right because it just looked kind of funny centered like that. And it ends up looking a lot better when I move it to the right. And I'm going to cut that out because it takes me a little while sometimes. And I know that I'm going to put a small embellishment to the left. And so I've got my letters moved over now. And I like a lot better how the thickers really pop with that blue background. And I already have in mind that I'm going to put maybe like an arrow kind of pointing at the title. So now I need to decide how I'm going to do my layers. And I went ahead and chose the star paper, and that is Amy Tangerine, Stars and Stripes, and it's from her Better Together collection. And the polka dot paper, that is the Everyday collection by Jen Hatfield, and that's dotted chevron. And then I went ahead and used the leftover piece of paper that I had from the hand cut title, the Chamel's Rosetta paper, and I'm going to go ahead and add that to my layers as well. I just cut random strips and made sure that they weren't equal lengths and equal thicknesses, and I just decided to go ahead and kind of put them down the left side of the layout. I wanted to keep this layout fairly simple, mainly for the fact that I have actually already scrapbooked these photos, these actual photos, and I tore that scrapbook page apart. I've never done that before, but these photos were fairly important to me. They're photos of my son when he turned 1, and he's now 12, so they're very old photos, and I don't have copies of them, and I'm not even sure if I have any other photos from when he turned 1, and I hated the layout that I had created for these photos. It was very primary colors, and it was just really tacky. The patterns clashed, and so I don't feel bad for ripping that layout apart. I've thought about that layout, and as well as another layout quite often. So I'm not going to tear apart the other layout though, because I do have access to that photo. Referring to my other layout, I do have access to that photo, so I can just print off another one if I choose to do that. So I'm keeping the embellishments very simple, and I just pulled some of the wood stars from my stash, and the little tiny wood stars, those are from Studio Calico, the solid ones. I'm not sure where I got the sketchy ones. Those may be Studio Calico as well, but I'm not sure. I just know that I have them in my wood veneer stash. And the arrow also came out of my stash. So I went ahead and punched a hole in this tag, and that is a scraptastic exclusive die cut. And I wanted to make it look like a real tag, so I took some twine from my stash as well. And I'm just going to tie it in kind of a knot. And because that twine is so thick, or that, I don't know what, jute maybe, or whatever you call that really natural string, I went ahead and popped it up with some very thin pop dots. And I'm going to go ahead and add just regular adhesive to the bottom of it, because I do want it to lay fairly flat, because I'm going to put some embellishments on top of that tag. And so I didn't want to have to pop everything up. But because of that twine being so thick, it would have kind of bent the paper a little funny. So I'm going to add a few more stars in my downstairs, my bottom cluster. And, but that large circle that says March on it, that actually did come in the kit, and I love it. And his birthday is in March, so it was just perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I really like how this little cluster turned out. Other than that, I'm not going to do anything else to this layout. I might do a little bit of journaling. I'm going to keep it very simple. I don't remember really what we did for that day, and I didn't scrapbook at that time. So I just remember what I had made for him for dinner, and that I baked him a cake, but I really don't remember anything else of that day. So my journaling is going to be very simple, and that's going to be it. Okay, so thanks all for watching. Bye.